Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast, where we discuss all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.
Yeah, at the end of the day, well, number one, this is the place I wish I had growing up.
That's right. Yeah.
That's basically what it comes down to. But number two, and I think it's another factor I've realised lately, is we're only caretakers.
That's right.
When we look after people, we're not the be all and end all. I never hope to be. I am the solution. I am potentially the solution to the person that comes and walks in through the door. The reason why I may think I'm the solution is based on what they're saying to me and based on what outcomes we're able to produce for a lot of other athletes as well, or Gen Pop members. We do have Gen Pop members that do train here as well. We provide a solution that they find that is continually the solution to them in their current state. Eventually we'll get to the point where they do move on, and at the end of the day we are just caretakers to all the members here. So eventually people will move on to bigger and better things, and we actually do hope that for the future. There's some members that they're happy to stick around, and we've got some members have been with us for 5 years or so, and then their goals have just naturally evolved over time as well. So at the end of the day, I created a place that I wanted growing up, and I really enjoy, what I do, and seeing the results of a lot of the members have been getting, and, especially with athletics and surf lifesaving to swimming at the moment, it's great to hear some of these results that are coming in through the door with a lot of our members. One of them just crushed it. He got 11 medals at the state lifesaving championships quite recently. We've got states coming up. From the time that we were recording this, and then we got nationals that will be coming up for swimming as well. So it's a big calendar coming up in the next couple of weeks, and then just seeing them succeed and tick their goals, and make it and continue to develop in their health and fitness, and for the parents to actually trust us as well. There's a lot of parents that really do trust us in the development of their kids that have been with us for at least maybe 2 years now, or at least 2 years, I reckon, where they had they entrusted us during the lockdowns as well. A lot of the parents really did trust us with the kids, make sure look after their nutrition, to help them with their sleep and study, and really trying to get through these times where it may be a little bit more difficult than normal, and participating in online sessions that Matt and Nathan were running. Then we had Dave with the Book of David, some philosophical life lessons.
Yeah, we did a lot of personal development as well as physical. Yeah.
We focus more on the personal development because you got to focus on the person first, because they're, at the end of the day, they govern what they do. So if we can actually help the kids, move them into a position where they actually can become more successful, I think we've done our job. Whether it's with us or somewhere else, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
And it says a lot about our business too when you've got the team, like Dave, Matt and Nathan are still with us.
Yeah.
Since
Dave. So Dave's is our longest serving. He's been 3 and a bit years now. It was December 2020.
I'll lose track.
I don't know. It was December 2019, I think.
I think 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2019, December 2019. So one of the first to jump on board. Then we had Nathan, who jumped on in March 2020, when everything started to get locked down, and then we had Matt. Nathan. Yeah, Nathan's moved on to online. He's moved on to big things, but he still helps us with the online content. Then we've got
Matt coming through as a placement.
Yeah, Matt came on as an intern through Deakin. He did phenomenally well, and it'd be stupid for us to actually let him go and not offer him a position. Then more recently, but it's been close to a year now.
It's been a year, I think.
Is Zoe as well. So I feel like our team really encompasses what we want to do and deliver for a lot of the members that we look after. They buy into our vision. They provide immense amount of feedback for us as well to continue to develop the business, whether it's on an operational side to everything behind the scenes on the floor. They've done a phenomenal job in order to help us get to this position as well. And especially being a fitness business, and it wasn't easy, especially in Melbourne during the last couple of years as well. So we definitely took quite a hit, and I know a lot of fitness businesses have mentioned that. But we're very happy and proud that we're small, but we can help quite a few people, whether it's online, online in terms of, because I do some online coaching and mentoring with some of our kids, to the face-to-face stuff, or whether we're doing, programs like football programs or something like that, assisting, footy coaches. There's various ways we can actually assist the community in order to help drive positive outcomes in whatever they may be to those individuals.
Absolutely, yeah. So at the end of the day, as far as the parents are concerned, we want parents to be involved, to ask questions, to stay in touch with us, because it's your kid. And that's how I am, and I would hope that every other parent would be like that too, because at the end of the day, who can you trust the most about your kid? Well, it's the parent. It's the parent that's leading and guiding. So, we're here. Yeah,
and it's hard to... when I see the kids succeed, that's when I feel like I've succeeded as well, as seeing their growth and development. And hearing Lockie, it's great to hear him win 11 medals and whatnot, but the success for me is for him to have confidence in order to get those 11 medals. It's for him to, and I lacked confidence growing up, right? But I like to see when kids really develop that confidence in who they are. We have a young kid, Ewan, far out. He's tall. I think he's taller than me now. He's 13, 14 years old. Baseball, like a good baseball player, really good. He's got some attitude on him now. When he first started, he was just very quiet, almost like just kind of kept to himself. But now he's just got some attitude to him as well. And really seeing him grow as a person has been really cool. His dad has noticed, actually, even get your kids strength training. Their grades will improve. With Ewan,
I've heard that. Yeah.
With Ewan, his grades had fluctuated throughout the year. I think in year 7. Now he's in year 8. Or at the start of year 7. Then he got into and towards the end of the year, his grades actually stayed consistent and actually improved as well. So you actually will start to see changes in their behaviour. If you get them strength training consistently, their grades actually start to improve, especially you have better sleep, better nutrition. They just operate on a bit higher frequency. And even their mood as well. Their mood will actually start to pick up and improve as well. And we've seen changes of that, especially with some of our kids. They might be on an NDIS scheme or something like that as well.
Well, you didn't mention that. See, so again, not everyone's going to know that.
Yeah, so we actually look after quite a few kids that are on self-managed plans through NDIS, whether they're on the spectrum, suffer from anxiety or whatever it may be. And these kids, the great thing about this environment, right, it's not too big. It's not too small where it's claustrophobic, but it's not big where you feel overwhelmed. And they can operate with other people around them as well. And then they can actually develop on themselves. So I like the factor that we're not so big of like a Globo gym or something like that, or some of these other companies are, S&C facilities out there that are, they're bigger, large scale, and they're a bit more streamlined in their processes and programs. It's still individualized, but they have to kind of streamline it. We still keep it very heavily individualized. Then the other part is, for those who don't know, Simon Sinek, he talks about a concept called Dunbar's number. Dunbar's number refers to the amount of people within an organization or a company or a school, whatever it may be, where you transition from feeling like an individual, like a person, to becoming a number, right? And that number is between 100 and 150 people per area, right? So say for us, right, example, or even like a corporation, like if you got a shopping a supermarket, right? If they've got 500 staff, right, the managers aren't going to remember your name. It's like, oh, what's your name? Now, what's your number? Whatever it is, they're going to remember it as more as a number than anything else, and they're not going to know you as a person. They're going to know you as staff member 422. If there's 500 staff there, because their brain cannot comprehend the large mass of people. But if they broke it down into like quadrants, like into like, one manager might look after 100 staff and that's their sole responsibility is look over those 100 staff, then there'll be way less issues in terms of behavioural aspects, and the community aspect of the team will actually be strengthened as a result. So for us, it's important that we keep the numbers low. Our thing is keeping it at 100 members. Everyone still gets individualized programming. Everyone gets looked after. There's no issues in terms of spacing. Everyone just feels like a person, because everywhere else around us is getting larger and it's getting standardized.
Yes, robotic in a way, isn't it?
So schools, supermarkets, retailing outlets, they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, where you no longer feel like an individual, where, if you go to a local cafe, right, they might only have like 20 people that are regulars, but they remember you. You feel like there's a community aspect. You feel like you're,
the care factor.
The care factor. It's like, you feel like you belong somewhere.
People are looking for that.
Correct. And people are looking for a place to belong. When you go to like a big gym, I'm not going to name names, but if you go to a big gym, right, and then it might have this wow factor of, $1.5 million worth of equipment, right? But if it doesn't have the care factor and the staff don't greet you by your first name, or it's hard to, or there's no classes on there or something like that, it becomes harder to belong there, or gives you a easier reason to leave, because no one gives a shit. Might as well walk out. No one's going to care. Might as well leave my plates here. No one's going to know.
Yeah.
And then the standard starts to peter off, that someone else is going to pick up the slack, or someone else will clean up after me. Someone else will wipe my sweat down. It's like it's very low standard way. So for us, keeping it smaller makes the most logical sense, because it also helps represent our brand as well, of how we actually look after members. Keep it small, keep it tight. If members want to move on to other things, that's great. And then we can bring someone else in to help fill that spot, and we can look after them.
So, and the other thing too, having to, what you didn't mention before too, about like we'll have no more than 8 booked in at any given time. We've also have 2 coaches on the floor. Now that's sort of unheard of. You don't hear of that very often, do you? And it's all customised.
Yeah, we stick to a 4-to-1 ratio, 4 members to 1 coach. Yes, we've got interns coming on board, and I feel like they're starting to get what's going on as well. And that ratio is really important, because it's enough to feel like you're being looked after without feeling overwhelming to the coaches as well. So the coaches can actually deliver a good standard of coaching without the large presence and numbers. So they can give enough feedback. They can have a chat to talk to the young kids about how did you sleep, how's your grades, what concert did you go to, what's his name, Harry Styles, he's been in Melbourne, and Ed Sheeran, he's come to Melbourne. So it's these things that the kids are like, oh, something about me. It's like, oh, what can we talk about? The people love that stuff.
Yeah.
We got high level managers that train here. We got business owners that train here as well. And sometimes they just want to talk shit.
Yeah.
So it gives them an opportunity to be able to do that. In a class when there's more people, it's going to be really difficult. So then you've got that side where people can just be themselves in this space, where it's not overwhelming. And then the other part is, if you go larger than that, because I've worked with school groups, I've worked with, I've worked in the drug and alcohol setting, working with a lot of people, and elite programs where there's 20, 30 kids you got to look after. The feedback and the level of care that you can provide, or level of service and coaching you can provide, does diminish the more and more people you bring on board in terms of trying to look after. So when you scale up, unfortunately, the quality will diminish unless you bring more people on board in order to maintain that quality. So for us, it was always important in order to maintain that quality of coaching, but I don't feel like I want to go larger. I just want to get better. And that's what we're doing, really. Yeah. Pretty much it.
So all I can say to any parents, obviously if you're involved with us, it's fantastic. You'll get the level of care, support and guidance that you need in so many ways. And if you, for some reason, you can't, or you live somewhere else and you're looking for something, you need to find, just have to try and source out where they're going to take the care and attention, because you can't just throw your kids into a gym and leave them to it. I also belong to another gym that's nearby, just because I've always, I like to train in different spots myself, but I train here about 4 mornings at least a week.
Yep.
But, I like a change of scene as well. And, kids are coming into that gym, they have no idea what they're doing, or sometimes they come in with parents and they've got no idea what they're doing, and nobody's got any idea what they're doing. It's not good, because down the track, these kids could end up with injuries and all sorts of issues. So they're not young adults, and people often train them, and parents parents treat them like young adults, but they're not. So they need proper guidance and care and support, and I thoroughly recommend you find
and patience. They take
patience,
the patience.
Exactly, patience. Yeah, and sometimes having that third person is outside of the family is so much better. The kids will open up a lot more as well and tell you the real truth.
Yeah. I think we provide, I guess, that support, like that big brother support in that essence, or big sister, Zoe. And they do open up a lot. They do open up quite a bit more. Then we can find out a bit more issues, because with parents, right, they also, two income household these days.
Too busy. You see that all the time.
For some of the kids here, they're in a really good position where, one parent, looks after the home and the other parent works. So they're in a situation where it's okay, where they can, mum's usually around and they have, it's really good. But sometimes kids feel, they won't say it, but not, I wouldn't say neglected, but they're not in they just feel like it's hard to be heard, because it's all just like, I only have this small window of time. But usually when we give someone time with someone else, they start to open up. And that's what we see. First time the kids come in here, they don't really open up. They just talk general terms. By week 3, week 4, some kids, we just don't want to shut up. Just want to keep talking, which is great. And that's what we find, is kids will begin to open up to us. Then we can actually help assist you. If they're tired, fatigued, they're under eating, not sleeping enough, then we can provide these notes to the parents and be like, hey, keep an eye out for this, because we've noticed, or they've mentioned that the last 3 nights they've only slept 5 hours. They feel like they're falling asleep, or they're just getting in trouble in class. When we can when we have these discussions with them, it's like the parents will like, okay, cool, they've got an interest for our child. And that is the service that we provide, but we don't really mention it. I think that's probably the other thing, which we'll start to do later on.
We have got a lot of, we're very knowledgeable in a lot of areas surrounding, your health and fitness, and, some of these, I suppose, these stresses of life, and we can actually point people in the right direction. So if we're just talking about the kids, and certain issues pop up, we can actually refer off to, if we can't help, to other areas. And I think parents are so overwhelmed, they don't know where to go. Even with the injury scenario, which we speak about all the time, how many kids, their progress has actually stopped because, unfortunately, they're not seeing the right sort of practitioner to help them move forward. And they're not communicating properly with us either. And that poor kid's mental state can drop down greatly as a result of it, as well as their, physical fitness.
Yeah. Look, problems can snowball from a lack of communication.
Yeah.
I think it's like out of sight, out of mind mentality. It can be for some families. It's not uncommon. But when we're aware of these behavioural changes or issues that are popping up for these kids, then we can actually provide the best support. And then the best support, it could be just something as simple as just having a quick sit down with them, or just be able to provide alternatives. And a lot of the times we say when we injure ourselves or we're sick, we just look like, we put the brakes on. All right, lock up the car, pack up shop, and go home for the day. That's not in this case. We actually want to provide that next level of support for the child, whatever it may be. They hurt their knee. Okay, we can do some upper body training. Because at the end of the day, if you have more attention on the injury, it makes them feel more useless. I can't do this, I can't do that. And kids these days don't want to feel useless. They're trying to figure themselves out in this, very complex and dynamic world that we're in at the moment. So what we want to do is be able to put them in a position where they can see beyond their injuries. Now, I've got an example of that, actually. So we got Jasmine.
And it's such a big issue. That's why we're bringing it up.
And Jasmine. Jasmine's a good example because she busted her finger. She plays rep netball.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Right? 14-year-old, really good netballer. And she said, she had trials on, and she's like, I'm not so sure if I'll be able to play because I got to bust a finger. It's like, how's it feeling? It's like, it doesn't feel good when I'm catching, right? It's like, all right, let's see how we go if we try something different. And it's like, maybe, and basically making the suggestion we can work around this, not work through the pain. So what I said to her, it's like, all right, let's just build up intensity and see how much intensity you can deal with. And basically what had happened was it got to the point where I was like passing maybe 30% power, and then she started to feel it through her finger. So what I did was, it's like, let's change the way that you actually catch the ball. Then basically I said, rather than just catch it like stiff in your hands, try and guide it back, like trying to take the heat out of the pass. As a result, I started passing harder and harder and harder, not 100% obviously, but hard enough that it would actually represent of what it would feel like in a game. It's like, all right, I want you to do that. And you can do both sides, down low as well. Then I said to her, now you can redirect it, because her right hand, it was a right hand, one of the fingers on her right hand that was busted. Then I said, now let's pass. So let's do your normal pass, chest pass. Chest passing was fine because it was both hands. But when she does a single arm pass, like more like a sidewinder or overhead, she felt it was painful when she was releasing it. So I said to her, rather than do your normal style, try and go more from the side. Right, and she actually felt it had a lot more control going from the side because we were reducing the strain and load through the busted finger, and we were putting more strain through the other fingers to help compensate for that. And then she's like, oh yeah, pass it harder, and it started building up. Then what we did is we combined the catch and pass in one smooth movement. And then she's like, how does this feel? Good. Sweet, do that.
And she feels confident now getting out there.
Correct, yeah, because we also tested it. We also tested her fear as well to see if her fear was actually rational or irrational fear. To some degree, it is rational because it's like, if I don't do it right, I'm going to hurt my finger and then I'll be out for a while. But she only had one real opportunity to showcase her skills, and that was leading up to the weekend. So we made those changes to her, and then she walked away with her head held high and a bit more confidence in her abilities, because we just made one or two slight minor changes in terms of what she couldn't do. It's like, I don't know if I can play. It's like, at the end of the day, it's a finger in the grand scheme of things, but for her, it was quite like, in her world, it's a big deal. It's holding her back. But how can we make those adjustments? And really good athletes will be able to make adjustments on the fly, be able to modify.
Yeah. So there's always ways of adapting, and again, just going back to lots of events we've experienced, unless you're sort of virtually, paralysed and you can't do anything, you can always do something, but you've got to get the right advice. Unfortunately, people don't know what the right advice looks like, and when it comes to the fit, I mean, these guys are trained, exercise science, Trent, rehab is his specialty. So getting the right advice from the right people, otherwise you could end up going backwards. That's all I can say. And don't be frightened to get second opinions. Sometimes it's much better to get a second opinion. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
Not really.
No, I think we covered everything.
No, I think so. Yeah.
Luna, you got anything else?
I think she's fast asleep. No, you're still awake, young lady. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first time she's been quiet for this long. We could go down these topics, even deeper, especially when it comes to like how parents can better support their kids. I know my mum was there to support me along the way, the highs and lows, and I still remember the grand final that you came down to. Then
you mentioned that on I think it's one of the podcasts. Yes, I remember that day.
Yeah, you were shitty as.
I was mad.
Dad was shitty as well.
Yeah. What a yeah.
Yeah, and I never got a reasonable reason of why they didn't start me that day. And I thought I'd played phenomenal the 2 games prior, leading the finals.
And you always turned up for training, always did the right thing as well.
Even when I busted my knee, I think I was out for like a week where I couldn't actually put a lot of weight on it. And I think moving forward, I was able to get back into training and assist to some degree, then get back and get it stronger. But unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be.
And that's one thing with injuries. As a parent, don't take it for granted. You might think they're being a hypochondriac or something. I used to get everything checked out when it came to the injuries and the aches and pains, because most of the time, each time it was a relative issue for them. So don't you become the doctor of all things, because you don't know. And we used to go to physio and osteo and all that sort of thing. And do the rehab properly, because these things can linger on. And we do. How many people do you know? Like, I don't know, in their 40s and 50s, who can't do certain things, or the arthritis set in because they hadn't addressed the problem they had when they were playing sport when they were younger.
Yeah, just get strong. That's the message.
That's it.
Let's wrap it up for here today. Thanks for coming down, Mum, for the podcast.
You're welcome.
If you enjoyed this one, please like, share, even subscribe as well if you've just been following us or following our content and aren't actually a follower. It really helps us promote what we're trying to do and actually make positive changes in the community. It's not clickbaity stuff or anything like that. We genuinely care. We see the issues that are happening on the grassroots level. We deal with it on the grassroots level, and now we're just trying to bring it to a higher awareness around us, and then just be able to better communicate that. That's probably the number one thing we want to improve on, and then be able to support those who we can support and want our support, or want to be supported by us, I should say. Until next time, I'll see you around.
You have just listened to the Inner Athlete podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the release of weekly episodes. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get great tips on all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.